Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Law and Finance Show, and today we have another great guest on. Now, one of the things about practicing law is that a lot of people do kind of struggle with being able to hold on to their identity of who they are and truly being themselves as they navigate the legal industry. And then another thing that people kind of have a challenge with is when it comes to actually starting your law firm, of really transitioning from practicing law to building a business around it, but still being able to do it in a way that is authentic to you and to be able to do it in a way that actually helps and brings value to your clients. So, we have an amazing guest on today, and we're going to hop into that conversation when we come back. So, stay tuned. So, without further ado, let me bring on my guest, Liku Amadi. Welcome to the show, Liku.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely no problem at all. I'm glad that we could actually, connect to have you as a guest on the show. And like I said, even some of the stuff that you sent over before, like in some of the questions kind of before the show, I'm definitely excited to talk about that because I think as you put in there, is just, that one thing you want it to be remembered for is like being yourself,
Mhm.
throughout as you serve with with excellence and being professional, but being able to still hold on to who you are in this. So I think that is amazing, and I'm looking forward to hopping into that conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. Let's get into it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we jump into the details of that,
Mhm.
one of the things I always like to ask is, what part of the country are you in?
I am on the West Coast,
Okay,
California,
nice.
Oakland to be exact.
Okay, nice, nice, awesome. And now, before we jump even further, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. As you can tell by my name, not really American, Liku Amadi. So my family is originally from Tanzania. My siblings and I were born here. So I've always been in the Bay Area my entire life. Went to Sacramento State, which is not too far, about an hour and a half for undergrad. And then down in SoCal, San Diego, which is beautiful for law school. And then came back to the Bay afterwards. I started practicing law in 2018. So I've worked for two law firms. And the second law firm that I started working at, that week, we got the notice to shut down by the governor because, of course, COVID. And that was a very interesting and scary transition for me, which ultimately led me to decide to open my own practice because the quality of life that I worked so hard for, took out so many loans for, just was not there like I expected it to be. So that's why I started my own practice in the middle of my first trimester, and it's been the best decision ever.
Wow, that is quite a lot of change so early into the process of
Mhm.
your professional practice. So one of the questions I love, asking and learning a little bit about is, what was it about law that intrigued you to want to study law?
Man, I don't ever recall myself wanting to be something other than a lawyer. There was a time in high school when I wanted to be a rapper, but that doesn't really count. But I love how you can take a set of facts and spin them multiple ways, right? Like you can build multiple stories. So I've always been intrigued by that. I've always loved the arts of argument and debate. So that's what initially sparked my interest. And then when it came, once I entered adulthood a little bit more, college, and especially that first year of law school where there was the Mike Brown protests and like the boom of Black Lives Matter, I really wanted to use my knowledge and experience with the law to help Black communities. So my passion shifted to, not just like being super intrigued by arguments and what you can do with it, but leveraging it in different ways to assist the Black community. So particularly criminal justice, which I had a huge interest in, but emotionally I couldn't separate myself from. So now in the business aspect, which is super critical as well.
I want to talk about that a little bit more because I've heard some people say that, in which one of the things I can say is that the legal industry is one that's uniquely different in this respect that sometimes the type of law that you practice, it does take a skill to be able to separate yourself emotionally from the case and still, be effective in it. Whereas, for people like myself, my background is accounting and finance. I mean, there isn't too much we get emotional about unless there's like some fraud or some issue going on. And it's rare that that happens. For
Uh-huh.
us, it's like the numbers keep things a bit more black and white. So, I mean, for yourself, like, with having that interest in like criminal justice and then, but, coming to that point of just realizing like, hey, mentally, this may not be the best place for me. Like, how did you kind of navigate, coming to that conclusion?
Man, so first, when I had an internship at the public defender's office, I saw how long people worked. I saw that people had second cell phones, for clients, and just I was like, from a quality of life perspective, that's not for me. Like, we can't be on the phone at 9 p.m. while I'm trying to put the kids to bed, and you want to talk about your case or something came up. Like, that's just not the life that I want to live. Number one. Number two, being passionate about just criminal justice reform and Black lives. And, I didn't want to, have to tame that in my everyday profession. Um, and I didn't want my mental health to suffer from trying to tame that, if that makes sense. And so I found that instead of me being an advocate in the courtroom, I could do it different ways. So, for example, um, I published an article with the Harvard Journal of African American Policy around recidivism and Black people. And so I like to write, I like to research, and it may not be as raw, as you probably see on TV, but I thought that that was one important way that I can contribute my voice to the conversation without having to let go of how I feel about it or trying to mask that to the extent that it would be to my detriment.
I think that's an amazing point because, one of the things that I find in just talking to so many people, and especially this is one question that I do get a lot with as much
Mm-hmm.
content as we create to where like we're producing like three different podcast shows, plus there's other stuff that we're posting on. We're producing like maybe like 7 to 8 pieces of content every videos every single week. And people ask the question often is like, how do you how do you not veer into, like the things that you are deeply emotionally moved by and letting that bleed in? And I like what you said about, just finding other avenues to still express your voice,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, that is emotionally sustainable for you. So, I mean, I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Now, I guess as you kind of made that transition, from, looking at the criminal justice aspect, to then, looking at, okay, all right, what other, area of law can I focus in? Like, what helped you kind of make that decision of where to go to next?
Yeah, I still wanted to like, deal with facts. I was interested in litigation, right? So more clear cut and not really emotional. So I went into insurance defense, and that got me a lot of experience preparing for litigation. I actually never went to trial, but definitely took like a lot of depositions, did a lot of discovery, a lot of research, a lot of investigation. And I appreciated that experience for those skills, being able to be so hands on so early on. And then I got interested in employment law based on a few cases that we did. And so the second firm was actually just employment law. And that was also super interesting, and I'm glad I got to experience that. But that also helped me realize that I don't want to work for corporations. I want to work for smaller businesses, solopreneurs, because again, I felt like that's where our community was at. But yeah, it was still great experience for skills, and just being able to talk to clients and communicate with them directly because I've always wanted to be hands on.
Okay, awesome. I love just that reality of, like said, the journey unfolding and some of it finding out like, hey, what is a good fit, what's not a good fit. And I think
Mhm.
being flexible enough to adjust. I mean, now I guess is there anything that, a mindset, a mentor, or anything that helped you get comfortable with that? Because I find that a lot of people, especially when it comes down to starting a law firm or going into practicing law, is like it's almost like they lose this sense of flexibility that, hey, you may try this, it may not work, so adjust and do
Mhm.
something different, to where it's almost like they force themselves and know I have to do it this way. What was it that kind of gave you that freedom or that flexibility to be able to say, hey, if this isn't the thing, how do we choose a different path?
Yeah, someone, I don't know who, but someone told me early on in law school, like, do as many internships as you can so you can figure out what you like, right? And it's the same thing like when you once you get into the field, like people change jobs, they change professions, they change careers all the time. So experiment and see what you like. And I appreciated that because I had several different internships in law school. I worked for a solopreneur. I worked for the public defender's office, the DA's office, a smaller firm, and then came out and worked for a small firm, and then a larger firm, countrywide. And so that variety of experience really helped me figure out what I liked, the type of environment I wanted to be in, the type of clients I wanted to work with, the level of communication I wanted to have. So just always keeping that in mind that you don't have to just stick to one thing. Like try things to see what you like.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So now when we're talking about the type of law that you practice now, I want to talk a little bit more about, what are the types of problems that you're addressing and you're helping your clients solve?
Yeah, so right now, in my own practice, I work with online coaches, consultants, and strategists, and I help them establish a solid legal foundation for business. So that is LLC formation. I'm in California, trademarks and contracts, and particularly client contracts. I find that online service providers, we need clients to make money, basically. So what I try to preach and what I try to teach is that, that client contract or any contract that you have with people you're doing business with is the foundation of your relationship. So we need to pay special attention to what is in that foundation, the terms that dictate, right, how we get paid, how we communicate, how we get out of issues and resolve disputes. And so that is I was going to say that's my love, but yeah, that's my love, is teaching people, to understand because if I don't want us as business owners to just check the box and say, I got a contractor, check the box, and say, I got an LLC, check the box. I got a trademark. I want us to really understand. And so the problem that I'm trying to solve is people being surface level with the legal aspects of their business. So really teaching them the impact and how they can leverage that so their business grows for the long term.
It's one of those things that I think is interesting about the legal industry, is that oftentimes people, especially business owners, they don't seem to realize how valuable a lawyer is until they get in
Mhm.
trouble.
Yeah.
And so how has it been for you, trying to be proactive on the front end of
Mhm.
introducing business owners to these concepts and introducing them to the reasoning and just kind of like understanding like, hey, here are the type of problems that I help, my clients solve, and here's why that's important. How has it been of helping clients understand that, as opposed to the ones who are just like, hey, I'll call a lawyer if I get in trouble.
Yeah, it's been a learning curve in multiple aspects. Number one, in the online business space, because my practice is 100% virtual. So in the online business space, I just like social media. You see the highlights, you see the good. So you see business owners going from 0 to 500K in 30 days, or like, you see those types of things. And with the law, you don't get that. It's like you form your LLC and there you have it. Like, that's it. Like it doesn't, you don't see that quantifiable return, right? And so, like you said, it's proactive. And what we've been taught, I feel like society, the media, they show lawyers, in suits fighting crime. Like there's always some type of trouble afoot when there's a lawyer involved, and not the opposite, where it's like, this lawyer is my best friend. I talk to them once a week at our weekly meetings, and they advise me to do this, right? You don't see that. So I think that's one thing that's really hurting, and making it harder for people to understand the value of a lawyer. From a business aspect, I've worked a lot on just messaging, right? Because it's different to, I got all the technical jargon, the Latin and stuff. Like I can do that. I can teach people a certain way, but teaching people in a way that resonates with them, is different than me spitting like, this is how you form an LLC. These are the 10 steps, right? Versus, when you form an LLC, you need to do step three because XYZ. And if you don't, then this could be the potential impact to your business. Like just making sure people really understand, the levels that there are to what they're doing, is the thing that I've had to learn. So having a business myself, not just practicing law, but really understanding what it means to do sales, what it means to do marketing, like, and you really touch people in that manner. Um, it's been a challenge to answer your question, but definitely a learning experience and something that I think that I'm doing well, because when people are finished working with me or while they're working with me, they thank me for being so patient in breaking things down, so that they do understand. For example, I had a client who, was having their contract revamped, and this client came to me with a contract that was previously drafted by another attorney, but they, just wanted to check and make sure it was okay. I read that contract, and it was drafted in favor of the clients and serving their interests, and not so much, the person who came to me. And again, I think teaching just is so important, because had you understood really like what you had in that contract, you probably wouldn't have ever used it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I think that becomes so important because I've seen some people, and I've been guilty of this myself at some point of just like, oh, I'm smart enough to read this, or hey, that other person has great intentions. Until like, one of my best friends, his wife is a lawyer, and she
Mhm.
pulled me to the side and she said, Terrell, let me tell you something. Like, they may have the greatest of intentions, but if they pull that contract off the internet and you guys go into a dispute and you don't know what's in that contract, you're not
Mhm.
going to be protected. And so from that point on, she was like, "Send me the contract," and she but I find that that's probably like many business owners when
Mhm.
they're starting a business. There's so many different factors, the legal side, because I run into it also on the accounting side of like
Mhm.
trying to help them. Hey, let's be proactive about setting your books up, and they're kind of like, well, I'll get to that when, I have more money coming in. I'm like, well, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
problem already then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now one of the things that I've seen from you online is, some
Mhm.
of the different podcasts that you've been on, the different,
Mhm.
when we click on your link tree, we see some of the, the content that you have there. How often are you featuring and joining on like other content platforms to share your insights?
Often, I appreciate collaborations, just getting to know and work with other business owners in my community, especially if there's a way that we can serve each other and serve each other's clients. Podcast is something that I love to do. Going live, all of that is just other opportunities for me to teach and really get the information out there so that people look at legal in a different way and not just like what we were talking about, I only need a lawyer if I'm getting in trouble, so just learning what it means to be proactive and how that looks like in business. So I do them often. I talk about legal business essentials online. I definitely deep dive into subtopics about contracts and client experience, and then just the basics like around entity formation and doing things that keep your business afloat.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Now, if people are interested in learning a little bit more about you, maybe seeing some of that content and just learning more about your firm, where is the best place for them to find you online?
Yes, the best way is through my firm's website, www.anasalawfirm.com, ANASA lawfirm.com. Secondarily, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active, so feel free to send me a message or contact me through the website.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things I also have to ask about is the 2021 National Black Lawyers Top 40 Under 40.
Mhm.
You know, what was it like receiving that recognition? Was it a surprise for you, or was it something that you had known you'd been nominated for?
It was definitely a surprise. I got the notice upon leaving my last firm before opening my own practice. So it was for me. I took it just as a sign. I'm making the right move. I'm gonna do great things. So it was definitely an honor to be selected and recognized in that way.
Now, do you find that it helped you in kind of like leveraging getting your name out there or getting opportunities to, like I said, to collaborate with other content creators to let them know what you were doing in your new firm?
Yeah, definitely got to connect with some other attorneys, which was helpful because, again, I can do the law part, but running a business, completely different. They don't teach you that in law school. So it was nice to find new people to talk to about that. And also, I did get some calls from potential clients. So just another opportunity for me to be out there. So yeah, it was great.
Awesome, I love it. Now, one other thing that I saw from some of the information you shared with us about before doing the interview is we asked a question about kind of learning the financial side
Mhm.
of running a law firm. What was your journey with learning that side of running your own law firm?
Man, well, first of all, I thought I could do everything by myself and, quickly found out that that is not the case. Um, just like I preach to people, to contact a lawyer when you have legal needs, I very much learned that I need to contact X professional when I have X needs. And that's also been nice because I don't have to do everything. It's nice to have that team of people who can help you. So that was huge in my learning experience and just investing in my learning when it comes to business because again that's not something that I was taught, and in the online arena it's always evolving, so just investing in learning about business and adding to my skill set has been super helpful.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we wrap up, one question that I love asking, every guest that comes on is, when you think about your journey on going from, studying to practicing law to now running your own law firm and still practicing law, what's two pieces of advice that you would share with other lawyers who are trying to navigate that journey of going from just practicing law to actually having a law firm?
Yeah, to reiterate what I just said, number one is trust the experts, right? Whatever marketing, sales, there's a bunch of coaching programs out there by other lawyers who have been through this before. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Definitely get that help, whether it's community based or a program that you have to apply and pay for. It is worth every penny. And number two is just be yourself, like all the way, especially for Black attorneys. I feel like there's this image of what a lawyer is supposed to be. And I've always tried to carry that. And coming out of working for someone else, I continued to try and be that, which held me back from how I wanted to show up. But just leaning into my personality, the way that I speak, and being myself has been so much more enjoyable, and it's made me attract the people that I want to work with. And I think that's super valuable because what's the point in going out on my own if I'm not being myself? So definitely trust experts and be yourself 100%.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. Well, Liku, thank you so much for being an amazing guest and thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you're looking for ideas on how to manage and grow a profitable law firm, this Facebook group is perfect for you because every week we are featuring conversations with successful lawyers and businesses related to law firms on tips, ideas, and technology that are helping many people grow and manage a profitable law firm. So if you're looking for great tips and ideas, you definitely want to click the link below so you can join the conversation and be part of the Law Firms and Finance Facebook.